Yes, thank you. What is the expository sermon? Just a line by line, verse by verse teaching style. Okay. The subject is pulled by the text. So when it's expository, this one was topical. And you have expository. Okay. And what are you limited to with expository?
If it's line by line,
Yep.
by the lines.
Yep. By a larger body of text. Okay. And really, you don't want to go anywhere else. You don't want to go all over the Bible. Okay. You really want to stay in here. Sometimes you have to explain things, but generally speaking, you're just going to really live in that large body of text. It's a great way to teach. It's a great way to teach. You don't know what to teach. You don't really know much about it yet. You're really just trying to get through. I'm just going to preach the first chapter of Matthew, and I'm just going to go line by line, verse by verse. You don't really know how to navigate very well yet, so you definitely use it.
Did we kind of do that back in the day on Wednesday nights? Remember back, maybe when Pastor Dave would do it. We'd have like our Bible study.
We've done it before back in the day.
That way back, yeah. That's more like expository, right?
Yeah, that's what Calvary Chapel does.
Yeah.
Kind of, only on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
They don't do that on Sunday morning.
Do you characterize textual differently than expository?
Yeah, textual is like usually max 4 verses.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 2, you're really gonna do like just a few points out of it. So you might even read 7 verses in textual, but you're really majoring in on that
I got
1
you.
or
No.
2 verses in the middle.
I got you.
And you're sticking with 3 or 4 things in there. Where expository, you literally can just read 39 verses and teach something small about each one. And just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going until you run out of time. That's kind of what the Philippians, what we're doing right now in Philippians. Choose joy.
Morning
That is
group.
expository teaching. That's what my dad is doing right now.
You get Sunday.
And I do think it's a good idea to try to learn how to do them all. You can get something out of all of them, and you can get better.
And I've heard, if I could, I've listened to a lot of Chuck Smith primarily for expository. And he does dive out of, like if he's in Ephesians 1, he will dive out of that and go to something in Matthew 5,
Sure.
6, 7, and then he'll come back and then he'll dive out and he'll give a personal color, personal story for, it seems like, for 10 minutes. And then he'll come right back into the text. His home base is still that
Yeah,
series of text.
and honestly, that's probably not expository teaching. Okay, and the reason why I would say that is you can't do that and teach on more than like 3 verses or 4 verses at a time. So a lot of times on a Calvary Chapel Sunday morning service, they're in Matthew 7. They're only talking about 1 verse, maybe 2 verses. That goes to textual. Okay? On a Wednesday night,
Right.
they're really going to go every verse in that chapter. And you can't teach on 1 verse for 10 minutes if you have 45 verses in that chapter. So it's a yes and no kind of thing. And that's why this lineup here is important to me. The audience doesn't really need to know what type of sermon you're using. They don't need to know your style. It's not important, because kind of something I said at the beginning of this section is the people that are usually very arrogant about this are the disciples who are listening to the teacher teach. And it's like, this is the right way because my pastor teaches like this. Well, I bet if you talk to your pastor, he doesn't probably feel the same way if he's mature. Like he recognizes all the other styles, or you know, this is the one he's choosing to use. That's not always true. There are plenty of immature pastors that can't recognize other styles, but, are there any other possible outlines that you can think of?
I guess you could hybridize some
Okay.
of them and mix.
Yeah.
And come up with, you know, an outline that would work for an individual.
Yeah.
Individual setting, kinda like what Brother Phil was talking about, based on the audience and the setting, you could kind of mix and match, one
Yeah.
from column A, one from column B.
Sure.
kind of thing.
Yep. You could take a format like Me, We, Got You, We, and really go, like, in the God section, go almost expository for a bit, if you wanted to,
Oh.
you know? And then come back and finish it off, so it's like this complete meal right here, you know? So, you could do that. You could do this and do a 3-point message in the God section, and do more of a textual, style, right there. You could even do topical in the middle of that. And so you can even read the text first, tell the story, come do 3 points, go back to the text. You know, like there's a lot of different variations that you can do. And, yeah, there are lots of different kinds. So there's other possible outlines, and they're all probably just gonna be hybrid of the 3 that I mentioned. Topical, textual, and expository. That's why those would be sort of the textbook. You need to learn those, because they're probably the basis for all of the kind of hybrids. There might be another way to do it out there that I don't know about. That's why I'm asking you. You know, have you heard another way? If you think of one, bring it back to class. I'd love to look at it. Like, well,
Mix them up.
Mix them up. Yeah, mix them up. It's good. Okay. Let's break down creating the map. You outline your sermon. Okay? So, break this down again. I've broken this down already. Actually, before we break this down, I want to do an exercise. Because we've already broken this down a couple times, so I'm going to switch it up on you guys a little bit. Let's get your Bibles out. And I want you to go to Proverbs chapter 25. Okay. And I want you're going to read verses 1 through 5. Get out paper, pencil. And I want you, for the next five minutes, do this for 5 minutes. I want you to read these 5 verses, and I want you to come up with as many message topics as you can. What I'd like you to do before you write ideas down, I'd like you to read it once through. Then I want just to get a picture of like this section of scripture. Just read it and get it like a big picture idea. Like, what's the big picture of this section? Okay, what's going on here? Who's saying it? You know, who are they talking to? What's going on? What book in the Bible it is? Just get like a general big, 30,000 feet look down at it. Then after you kind of, maybe even, you could write some of those things down if you like. Then I want you to read it again and like break it down into small, I can do one about this, and write that message title down, that message idea down, and see how many that you could come up with in 5 minutes. To help you with this, maybe you could even like look at it and see, are there words that are repeated a lot? Or, that's when you're trying to get your big picture, okay? And then your small picture, you're not really looking for like all the words in all 5 verses. Maybe just one line sticks out to you. You just write that down. That makes sense. I don't know what the limit of how many subjects you can come up with in here, but it could probably be like, if there's 100 words, you might be able to come up with 50 messages, okay? So there's really no limit, you know? If you come up with 3, great. If you come up with 47, awesome. Doesn't really matter. But I'll go ahead and let you get started on this.
It was 25, 1 through 5, right?
Proverbs 25, 1 through 5. And activate. Any other questions? And if you're watching this by video, go ahead and do this by video and email me your answers or upload them in the software. All right, I'm gonna step out of the room. I'll be back in 5 minutes. You guys want more time, or? No? Okay. Alright, so, who got more than one? Raise your hand if you got more than one. Did you get more than one? Okay. What was your one?
Actually, I had a little bit of a hard time with that, I guess. I put a lot of pressure on myself over it, but I came up with verse 2. What I kind of get out of it is God's wisdom is His. It's up to us to seek His wisdom over our own.
Nice. Who got more than two? Did you get two?
I don't know, I was writing down a lot of questions, so, I mean, just questions about, like, you know, what is a proverb, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, how would I form that into a topic?
What is a proverb? Let's learn that. I don't know. Like, that's fine.
You talked about who Solomon was.
So you kind of got to like a basic idea. These are also the Proverbs of Solomon. You thought, what about a message on what a proverb is? Something like that?
Yeah,
That's great.
okay.
It's simple. It's okay. That's okay. I love it.
Mhm.
Proverbs 25, 1 through 5.
You heard that?
Uh-huh.
No. My computer died, so I had to switch.
Okay, who else got about two? You did?
Yeah,
And the only reason why I'm asking this way is because I want you to get a chance to say yours, because if someone got 17, I don't want them to take your one. You know, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how many you get.
Yeah, I had a lot of focus on verse 4, especially the word purified. Looking at different versions, some versions said take away, others said remove, others said purify, and it just kind of snowballed into a lot of questions like, what if you could remove pain from your life? What if you could remove fear from your life? And just kind of going off of that.
Neat. That's great. Who else? Did anyone else only get about two, or anyone three or more? Three or more?
I got 3.
Three or more? Okay, what was one of yours?
I was in verse 2 also, and kind of came up with a topic, hide and seek.
Hide and seek.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Tell me about it.
Verse 2 saying, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. So basically, I just saw conceal and search, hide and seek. Figured, you know, kind of like, I don't know, it's hide and seek.
Cool.
God hides little nuggets for us to dig out.
Nice. Love it. Very, very good.
I had two that were very similar to what he just mentioned. It was on, what is the glory of God to what is the glory of God to conceal? And how is the search for truth, a kingly pursuit?
Nice. What about you?
I started with, like my sister here, started with questions, just writing down, what is that, what is that, what is it?
Yeah, it's perfect.
How is maturity like the work of refining, you know, how can removing distractions help focus? And then from there went with probably 6 or 7, some greater, some lesser. Out of these 7, I think the best one is Highlights Magazine. What is it that about finding something, and I'm looking at verse 2, finding something that makes us go in the landscape, oh, aha, the hidden pictures page of Highlights Magazine when I was a kid, you know. Always went to that one first, so I could find the chameleon in the tree, or the little dwarf in the grass, or whatever it might be. What is that that makes, I found it. How does that
Search it
reveal
out.
God's glory?
Nice.
Good.
What about you?
Just a random one?
Yeah, anyone.
put a smith for your silver.
A what?
A smith for your silver.
A smith for your silver.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Kind of like we need. I mean, obviously the forward thing would be that we need some work, but just that like we have a valuable thing. We are a valuable thing, but it needs. We have to lend that to the smith to kind of design that into the jewelry that it will be. Kind of idea.
Cool.
The right value, yes. Gotcha.
Love it. What do you got?
All questions. First is, who is Hezekiah? Is that right? Hezekiah?
Mhm.
Okay. And, was Solomon truly the king of Israel? All Israel. What is the glory of God? Why would God conceal or keep things concealed or in secret? What king's heart is unsearchable? Is God pure? How does he make us pure? If there is no wickedness in the kingdom, where are you?
Nice. King Hezekiah, do you know who that is? He was the king of Judah
Judah, yeah.
who resisted the Babylonians. I got to march down his tunnel, Hezekiah's tunnel.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was awesome. The Babylonians came in and wiped out the northern kingdom of Israel after the split.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
So that
Solomon
was
was
during
the king.
Solomon's time?
It was after Solomon.
After Solomon's time.
Yeah,
That's
because
why.
David built his kingdom in Jerusalem, and that's all that it was. And then later, the kingdom split.
Right.
Okay, and
That was
Hezekiah
after
after Solomon.
Right.
Right, way after, a couple hundred years. Hezekiah, he protected the escapees from Israel who came in. They built a wall, and he protected them. Then he built a tunnel to and created essentially where the pool of Siloam is to a spring. They dug this tunnel, so cool, 500 meters long, with hand tools through a mountain in 3 or 4 months.
Without
Oh,
GPS,
man.
without any modern tools.
Wow.
Wow.
They started on one side. These groups started on the other side. And they
No.
had to also keep the angle the water could flow properly.
That's
And
right.
they dug a tunnel like this somehow and found each other. And they did a snaking pattern so they eventually like bump into each other. So
Oh, that's so smart.
crazy. And I got to go through the tunnel.
I get lost in the wall.
I walked through the stinking tunnel where the water's still flowing, and it lets out at the pool of Siloam where Jesus was, who he spit in the dirt and said, rub it in the guy's eyes, said, wash in the pool of Siloam, which is so cool. Like
Yeah.
Hezekiah was an amazing man too. He did something very significant that we don't think about. He made it illegal to sacrifice anywhere but the temple.
Say it again.
He made it illegal to sacrifice anywhere but the temple. Well, why is that significant? Well, during Herod's day and Jesus' day, they built a temple and they were sacrificing there. Jesus died and rose again. He's our ultimate sacrifice. 40 years later, the temple's destroyed. There's no more sacrifices anywhere ever again.
Ah.
And Jesus is an eternal sacrifice. Okay? So it's like they can't sacrifice, but Jesus was the sacrifice.
Right.
Right? So very significant things with King Hezekiah that you just don't think about unless you go on the tour of Israel, I
Yeah,
guess.
I just couldn't draw it together with Solomon.
Yeah.
You see, a proverb of Solomon is recorded by Hezekiah's being.
Yeah, he copied it. I
Yeah.
don't know what that means exactly, but he copied it down.
Do you happen to know when he lived?
King Hezekiah?
Uh-huh.
I want to say it was 800 BC, but I could be wrong.
So 200 years later, or
I want to say 200 years after David. Yeah, somewhere around there. Could be wrong on that. So, just to kind of talk about this. So the verse take away the dross from the silver, and there comes out the pure metal for a vessel for the silversmith to shape. And so I thought a lot about that this week. There's a song I was listening to. I actually was listening to it in class. I like it. But it talks about throwing yesterday in the fire and living like I want to live today. And it's like, when I was thinking about that, I was like, I like that idea of like taking yesterday, throwing it in the fire, and living the way I want to live today. But I was like, what does that really mean biblically? Like, you know, because some people just be like, just forget yesterday, just live how I want to live in the moment, you know, and like they could take that all sorts of different ways. But then I was reminded of this is when you throw like silver in the fire, what comes up to the top is the dross, the impurities. You remove that, then the silver can be now shaped by the silversmith. So I thought about, I want to throw yesterday in the fire. I want to learn from yesterday. Right. Say, Lord, what happened yesterday? That was not good. Refine me, Lord, like gold, like silver. And today I'll be soft and usable by you, Lord. So that's, I really, this scripture was actually ministering to me a lot. I also used this verse recently to teach on leaders, discovering leaders, and how like a king has to be, his destiny has to be found. God has hidden it, and it has to be found. Like, you don't know what your destiny is. Like, you can't tell me what your future is, really. You gotta go find it. And oftentimes, I use another verse in Proverbs 20 verse 5. A plan, a motive, wise counsel in the heart of man is like water in a deep well, but a man of understanding draws it out. Okay? So, I put those two verses together, and you have this picture that God conceals things, and he's concealed something in you, Neil, and he's concealed something in me, he's concealed something in you, and who can find it? Who can draw it out? Well, a man of understanding can draw it out like you draw out water from a well. And so then I started teaching about that. I started really thinking about, like, why do you dig a well?
It's the water.
Right? Okay? Why do you need to get to the water?
Because you're thirsty.
Yeah, but it's because water's not available usually, right? You don't dig wells next to a spring. You know, if it rains every day, like clockwork, you don't need to dig a well. We wouldn't water our grass if it rained every single day at like 3 o'clock. It just doesn't, though. So we have to dig wells where it's dry. And so in order to find somebody, a leader, it's like you got to go find them in the dirt. Like, leaders aren't just lying around like, oh, there's a leader, just come on, like, oh, there's a good person, oh, just come on in. You know, they're just not lying in the corner. They're actually, you've got to find a leader. So a lot of times you'll run onto somebody, and really what you see is a lot of dirt, you know? And inside of them is deep water. So a man of understanding can look past the dirt and go, there's water down there. I'm going to go find that. Or you could say it another way, it's like, I'm going to look past the dirt and find the gold. Right? And the only motivation to dig through a couple 100 tons of dirt is because there's gold down there, or there's water down there, right? We just don't go dig in the dirt for no reason. No one does that. You're insane, right? We don't just dig down into the earth for fun. That's not fun. But the motivation is because we can see down, and there's water down there. Okay? So I'm developing this whole leadership teaching on, you want leaders, you're going to find them in dry and barren places, and you've got to look past the dirt, and there's a process of digging past the dirt to find the water. Then there's even a process of drawing that water out. Because, you know, you could get a well, or you could have silver. You can use it, either analogy works. You have a clump of silver, and it's completely useless, right? But if you turn it into a tool, a sword, a hammer, a spoon, it's usable. Well, same with water in a well. Unless you have the strength and ingenuity to pull the water out, you could die of dehydration. So then there's a daily process of drawing water from the well. And like, it's just like, you know, I literally taught him this for like 45 minutes because it was just so, something about it just came alive in me. But that's kind of how these ideas can develop, you know, as you're studying this, as you see. I love that simple thing that you brought up. What is a proverb? I love that. That's a great thing to teach. What is a proverb anyway? You know, a word of wisdom or something, right? Right? So, anyway, don't be insecure about just, I like that. I'm writing that down. I'm gonna dig into that. If it kind of pops in you, don't be afraid. Just be like, let me see what's there. You don't have to see the end from the beginning. You can just get started and dig a little, find your way through. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. We're going to come back to the notes now, and we're going to create a one-point message together. Okay, so in the one-point message, it's going to have those things in it that we talked about. The me, we, God, you, me. Okay? And in creating of it, you need to create an outline. Okay? You need to begin to create your outline. All right? Very important. And in your outline, you're going to have various things in there. You're going to have ideas to introduce your thoughts. You're going to have ideas to support your thoughts. Let's see. You're going to have an application. These are all important things. So you're introducing the idea. How are you going to bring the idea to life? How are you going to support your idea? And what do you want them to do with it? You're going to build around that relationship between the speaker and the audience. You've asked a few great questions about this. And it's important that you do that you're really considering the audience in front of you and you as the speaker, all right? So when you get to the orientation phase, this is the me phase. This is orientation, okay? And this is how maybe what you're talking about, all right? How you faced this recently. That's a great way to look at it. How have I actually faced this issue? How have I experienced this issue? Okay? This allows the speaker to introduce themselves to the audience and the topic to the audience, if that makes sense. Okay? Okay? Sometimes an introduction can only have a topic. But then, if it's only the topic, maybe the audience doesn't quite connect with you. And so now I want to introduce myself a little bit to this so they can begin to connect to me. But the problem is, if you only introduce yourself and you never kind of get into their world, then maybe they're not going to connect with you because they don't have your same exact experience. So you want to broaden the experience. And the basic relationship is, hey, here's how I've dealt with this, you know? And people genuinely care about your story. They really want to know. They want to know what your deal is. But they don't want to be left there. They also want you to kind of get like how they're dealing with the subject, okay? So, you know, we did one on, we talked a little bit about fear before. So let's work this a bit, okay? For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. Let's work that a little bit. But let's do a one-point message, though. A one-point message is going to be a message series about fear. And the three messages, one's going to be on power, one's going to be on love, and one's going to be on a sound mind. So this is not a textual, this is a one-point. A textual, I would bring up all three. But at one point, we're only going to bring up one. Okay? This is why you have to be more creative and dig harder, because you really got to break down, we're going to break down power. So God's not giving us a spirit of fear, but a power. Okay? So the what is this? Overcome fear and walk in power. Okay? Point. Let's work this together, okay? Let's talk about a point. What's a point that can make this sticky?
Where does your power come from?
Where does your power come from? The source of the power? Okay, so let's refine that. Where does your power come from? So we can shorten that up with like the source of power, okay? It's not really sticking yet to me.
What about defining what power is?
Well, we're working on our point right now. Does that help with that? What do you mean? We're trying to get a sticky point right now. Trying to get a sticky point.
Flip the power switch.
Flip the switch. I like flip the switch.
Flip the switch, even better.
I like flip the switch. I think that's great. Flip the power switch, shorten it to flip the switch. I kind of like that. So let's just go with it, okay? Okay. I'm seeing this a little bit, but do you see any direct correlation between flipping the switch and fear?
And
I
what?
kind of do. I kind of see it.
The dark and the light.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yep.
So, who's scared of the dark? Who's
Like in general?
Yeah.
Kids.
Kids, good. All right. Have you ever been scared of the dark when you were a kid? Is there, okay, all right. Got any stories about it? I got one. It's easy for me to share this one, but I'd love for you, anybody got a story they want to share about?
Being afraid of the dark.
Sure, a good one. Anyone got a good story about like being scared in the dark?
Oh, haunted house when I was a kid, you know.
Okay.
Pitch dark.
Tell us.
They moved the walls around so you didn't know, you know, there's one room, you didn't have any light. You heard these noises and tried to back up. Well, that wasn't a doorway anymore. So at that point, it went from fear to being terrified.
Being powerless.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we got the haunted house thing going. I like that. And they took away the door, and then you felt powerless, and you got afraid. See, to me, it's an easy correlation. So now, we want to transition that though into the thoughts, right? So it's like you tell the story, and then man, I was scared. I was already scared of the dark. You know, is there like? Okay, cool. Sorry, I was asking a question out loud, and then I answered it. All right. But isn't there? And so here's where you have to transition. You go, and there's been other times in my life where I felt the same way, like where it was literally like I'm cruising along, and then sort of the walls of my life moved around. Some of the stabilities and the foundations that I was standing on, they kind of moved, and next thing you know, like my investment, this is where you have to maybe come up with some more examples. My rock solid plan just went to, just went to crap. So I can't think of another way to say that right now. Does anyone got a story about that where they were cruising and it was like, but then all of a sudden, sort of their legs were swept out from underneath them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer burned up.
Trailer burned up. Okay, so you're going to mention that. You're going to talk about that. That's just kind of be like my business burned up, which is very recent. Neil's trailer burned down with like a lot of his equipment in it about 2 weeks ago. Okay. So now we got to think about the next section. So we've got the orientation. We've oriented the audience to a little bit of our experience and how we're connecting with feeling powerless. And that powerlessness turns into fear. Okay? All right? So then we're going to get to the we section now. Okay? And the we section. All right, I'm just going to roll. The we section now identifies with the audience. So let's think of some situations that we might say, you feel powerless. And there's a couple different ways to do this. We can think of somebody at different ages where they feel powerless, like as a child. Well, and really we're gonna wanna talk to the audience. So if you've got no children in the audience, we're gonna skip child and we're gonna go to teenager. Let's say teenager, young adult, single is a young adult, let's say. And let's go to kids, you have married with children, empty nester, or single. Like, so let's look at some of those and how are we gonna bring out feeling powerless equals fear. Okay? How do you feel powerless as a teenager? Which would also be typical to have some fear.
Parents get divorced.
Perfect. Divorce, powerless. Let's go up to college student. How could a college student feel powerless and it would lead them to fear? It doesn't have to be as intense as this, but it could be anything.
Student loans.
Love it. Okay. What about young family, children?
You fear for your kids. The
Can't-
decisions they're gonna make, powerless to make their decisions for them.
Okay, just the fact you can't control your kids, like,
How about an illness to the kid?
sure. I mean, literally every parent has felt powerless, like the second that thing comes, I mean, even like, oh wait, this baby has to be born? You're like, what? Like,
Type of what?
we're just gonna do kids like that. Just kids in general make you feel powerless, dude. When they're going through a struggle, when your child's dealing with a coach that's a jerk, you know, and like you feel like, man, the coach is being rude. Like it's gonna hold my child back from maybe playing more, and it's gonna set him back or whatever. So, what about an empty nester? Maybe even along the lines of that age bracket of like
What do I
15
do
or
now?
so. What do I do now? Sure. Maybe retirement isn't like your retirement isn't set the way you thought it was, financial.
Right.
Okay.
Job loss.
Job loss. The general idea too is sometimes when something's out of our control, that feels like an underlying thing here.
Right.
Student loans are within our control, but that's another principle. Like when something is out of your control, and you feel like you're gonna be the victim because you have a professor that does this, or your trailer burns down, or your parents leave, or you have student loan, and the loan company is like, look, you need to pay these back faster, like those type of things, right? Or you lose your job, and it's like, how am I gonna pay these loans back? So we'll leave it at that, and then we'll come back into the guide section. Let's take a break.